Alright, so in the previous video I introduced you to the idea of the generative polarity. These are the positive or negative expression of natural law at the individual conscious level. And this idea is that humans have the ability to choose whether to experience the idea of reality formation creation, how our reality is built, with a positive expression, which is the expression of love, which allows the individual to become open to truth and knowledge and start to seek the knowledge out, and which ultimately leads to them gaining understanding and then over time to gain sovereignty over themselves, which allows for freedom to manifest at the societal or collective level and ultimately fosters or creates order in their lives. That's the positive expression. And the negative expression is the idea of fear. Looking at the thing that you ought to be paying attention to and then trying to hide away from it or ignore it. And this ignorance leads to the individual not understanding his reality, and that leads the individual to become confused at the individual level, and then the individual starts looking for a perceived higher authority figure to control them and to tell them what to do because they're scared and afraid and hiding away from the very knowledge that they need in order to gain understanding. And that ultimately leads to chaos to manifest for the individual and for the collective as well. And so what that sounds like is that I'm giving a very negative connotation towards the idea of chaos. And I simply am making this video to correct that idea, because we can't look at chaos as a profoundly negative thing. It should be seen as just a force that exists and a force that we can use to our advantage, because ultimately chaos is our best teacher. Chaos is also our best opportunity creator, and it's also necessary to exist for freedom to manifest itself at all, because in order for freedom to exist, the possibility of chaos must be there as well. And so we're going to start here by saying that chaos is not to be feared. It's to be respected, because chaos is our teacher. Chaos is used as the symbolic representation of the foreboding unknown, and basically it's the only way for us to learn. It's the only way for us to learn because we have to come into contact with that which we don't already know in order to gain more knowledge, in order to gain more understanding. You've got to go into the unknown to learn, because if you already know it, if it's already learned, then you don't need to relearn it. That's already been learned. That's already been processed by the individual. And you can't go into the chaos of the unknown if you fear the chaos, because fear leads to ignorance, and then you'll hide away from the very thing that you need in order to learn and in order to grow. And so if you fear chaos, you'll ignore and hide away from the best teacher that we got, which is chaos itself. And so the unknown is represented as chaos because it appears to be disorder and confusion to the uninitiated. However, once the patterns in the disorder are recognized and assimilated by the individual, the chaos of the unknown becomes known and mundane. And so just for a simple example of experiencing the chaos of the unknown and how scary it can be, just think of a child, like a 4-year-old, touching a burning stovetop for the first time. And so to the child, at the individual level, the burning stovetop appears to him as chaotic, unknown, and dangerous, and quite scary, and he hurt himself from it. But he also, at the same time, simultaneously learned a valuable lesson. Don't touch the burning stovetop. And so, over time, the chaos of the burning stovetop gets assimilated into the child's being. He comes to understand what the burning stovetop represents, what it means, and the fact that this burning stovetop is going to be a part of his existence, and that he can perhaps even utilize this burning stovetop at some point in his life. And over that course of coming to understanding, the child realizes that this burning stovetop is known to him and is mundane, and he understands it, and he understands the patterns within it. And so the chaos, it doesn't appear to him as chaotic anymore. He understands it. And so he learns to avoid touching a stovetop that's burning. And then when he grows up, he then learns how to use the stovetop to make food. He uses his knowledge of the stovetop to improve his quality of life here on Earth. And that cannot be done if he simply just hid away from the burning stovetop for the rest of his life. Okay? So we got to learn to utilize the chaos of the unknown later on when it becomes known and mundane. And this is ultimately the best way to learn, through conscious experience, coming into contact with the unknown, making it known, and then using the knowledge gained from the experience to your advantage. Further, Without the possibility of chaos, you become enslaved by the very things that were meant to keep the chaos at bay. This is a new point because people live lives of quiet desperation because they've been told to fear the unknown, to fear the very thing that they need to come into contact with in order to gain understanding. So what they do is they plant themselves firmly in what is known to them, and they insulate themselves by what they already know, and hidden deep within their houses, they think that they're safe with their safe things protecting them from the chaos of the outside world. And I stumbled upon this quote one day, and I can't find the person who made it, but the quote is, "How soon before the swaddling blanket cocoon suffocates the babe?" And the point of this statement is that what appears to be safety and security for ourselves, for the baby, which is this blanket, if it's wrapped too tightly, and if you don't check on the baby, this blanket, this force for security and order and comfort, suddenly becomes chaotic and dangerous and can ultimately kill the baby if you're not paying attention. And so you just can look at this as a normal person living his life with his new house and his new phone and his new car and his family and his great new job. All of that stuff insulates you and keeps you safe, right? Well, that's what you think. But that new house, well, that's a mortgage payment. The new phone is phone bills and text messages at 12 o'clock at night when you're trying to sleep. You got familial requirements from your family. And then you're finding out that you're trading your time for money, which is a terrible exchange. And ultimately, all of this insulation suffocates the individual. It makes them go crazy. It makes them feel like they live within this bubble of safety and security that's making them go crazy and depressed because they're not expanding their consciousness. They're not experiencing new things. They're not expressing new potentialities. And so the first thing that we have to acknowledge is that, sure, you go out there, right? There's always that potential for something to go wrong. And, for something to go wrong when you free yourself from the illusion of safety and security, you could die out there, really. But, what's worse than dying out there is probably acknowledging the fact that you could also die in your cubicle tomorrow as well, That's a terrible thing to think about. There's always that nightmare scenario where you're trying to do something new and you're experiencing the chaos of the unknown and it completely fails and your life is thrown into complete and utter chaos. And, trust me, I know this firsthand. What do you think I'm doing here? This is brand new stuff for me. I'm adventuring out into the chaos of the unknown. And the only difference between what I'm doing and what other people are afraid to do is that I am embracing the chaos of the unknown. I am accepting that this may not work out for me in the end, but I'm still going to try and do my very best and explore and experience these new experiences with love and compassion so that I can better understand what I need to do in order to be successful in this brand new environment. And so ultimately, I'm just using the chaos as my guide to tell me what I need to pay attention to. I'm using my fear to tell me what I need to pay attention to. And that's what I need to pay attention to if I want to succeed in my new life. And I also accept the fact that I could very well fail and fall on my face. But I just don't see ruin as a bad thing because chaos is good. Chaos means freedom. How better to shadow our egos than to fall on our faces? Self-reflection is a natural mechanism. When you're at your lowest low, and with it, you'll see the wickedness of your ways. You'll see the failures that you did. You see the ignorance in your ways. And with the ruins of your former life, you will build a better one. With the shattered remains of your ego, you will use those shattered pieces to reconstruct something even more beautiful, even more foundational, and even stronger, and that will allow you to move forward at a more effective rate in the future. And so, let's move on to the next point, which is that we need chaos because true freedom includes the possibility, includes infinite possibility, which by definition must include the possibility of chaos. This possibility must be embraced without fear if we're to be truly free. So, you're not free without the possibility of failure. You're not free without the possibility of chaos. You're not. We have to embrace these ideas. And we're going to talk about failure in later videos because failure is something that is a great tool to gain understanding, to gain learning from. So, we'll talk about it. But through the fear of the possibility of chaos, people often choose to advocate their rights away, along with their self-worth, to a perceived higher authority, who's always all too eager to bear the burden of controlling your life. And those who believe that a perceived higher authority is even capable of keeping the chaos at bay have been duped into believing a lie. History has shown us time and time again that authoritarians not only fail to keep the chaos at bay, but that they are the chaos manifesting itself from the abdication of individual responsibility, which is an action that is not in accordance with natural law. And so in Emmanuel Macron's book, he writes that he shares a collective guilt for not recognizing the yellow vest protests before it was too late. Effects like the yellow, but the point is, and so first of all, Emmanuel Macron is the president of France, and right now there's these yellow vest protests that have been occurring for about the last year now, every weekend. And the point is that effects like the yellow vest protests, they just don't occur out of nowhere. They're the result of decades upon decades of injustices and ignorance and forced control by perceived higher authorities. And this creates a bubble of chaos that is very large scale. And what we know about large scale chaos is that it needs a lot of mental or psychic energy before it can manifest itself on the physical plane. Many millions of minds need to be thoroughly thinking and considering and trying any means of non-aggression for years before dissidents find themselves protesting in the streets, the likes of which that have gone on for the last year in France. And when chaos manifests itself in society, we have to acknowledge that this is not the time to panic, okay? This is the final point, and that is that chaos manifesting itself is an opportunity, because chaos is our teacher, yes, and it's also the father of all opportunity. So take, for example, the chaos that we saw after the housing bubble burst in 2007 and 2008. Those who were affected by the bubble being burst were not prepared for the chaos that ensued. However, those who were prepared were able to seize the opportunity and take advantage of historically low interest rates, short sale closures, foreclosures, and foreclosure opportunities that resulted in the greatest economic boom that we are existing in today, that occurred starting in 2011 and has been going on for 9 years now. And I just want to point out that this example is not meant to insult those who were affected by the Great Recession. It's just to remind you that it doesn't matter how technologically advanced a society gets, how forward-thinking we become, how safe and secure our society is. Chaos will always return. It will always occur. And it's the rhythm of life. It's order and it's chaos, okay? And so the chaos cannot surprise you if you're always preparing for it, okay? And so we live in a currency-based society. All that I'm saying, what this means, is that all you have to do is save your money. Save your money. Save a portion of your money every single time you get a paycheck, all the time. Just try to prepare for what you know will be coming. Winter is always coming, so prepare for it, okay? And note that you're not preparing to survive the chaos, okay? We're looking beyond that. What we're doing is preparing to take advantage of the opportunity that the chaos engenders, okay? So what this means is to go forth and conquer, to not fear the chaos and then start to prepare to survive. That's not the point. The point is to take advantage of the opportunity that the chaos engenders, okay? And so you cannot hide yourself away from manifested chaos. You have to embrace it, and you have to love it just like how you love order in your life as well, because the chaos is going to give you opportunities. And so prepare for its return as if it's a good thing, because it could potentially be your greatest opportunity. And so go forth and conquer. And in the next video, what we're going to talk about is biology and how natural law interacts with it at the cellular level. And I'm very excited to talk about it because it's something that I find very interesting. So I'll see you in the next video.